Hello, this is Robin McAuley from Black Swan, and you are tuned in and listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hurricane you're after leads to a big disaster. Your clouds are full of rain again. The hurricane you're after leads to a big disaster. Your clouds are full of rain again and again and again and again. Your life is moving faster, and time is still your master. No pleasure without pain. Again and again and again and again. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo Altaf, and today we're going to talk to Robbie McAuley, who fronted bands like Grand Prix and McAuley Schenker Group in the 80s, and more recently he has been involved in McAuley Schenker Fest and in a new band called Black Swan. Robbie, great to have you with us.
Rodrigo, thank you very much. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So before we go into the details of the first Black Swan album, let me ask you about your health. I mean, you had a scare recently, so how are you feeling now?
I am feeling fantastic, and thank you for asking. It was a little scary. I didn't see it coming. A very unwelcome guest came into my life, but we got rid of that sucker thanks to a great medical staff. I got sepsis. I have no idea where I got it. I stay pretty healthy. I was doing great. I was packed and ready to take a flight to Florida from LAX to do the 70,000 tons of metal cruise with McAuley Schenker Fest. And I got really, really, really cold. My body went into shock. One of my sons called paramedics. I hit the ER, and a few hours later, I was in the ICU unit, and I was actually in a 12-hour critical window, which was a bit of a shocker for my whole family. Anyway, the Center for Infectious Diseases found out the real culprit bacteria, which was sepsis. Apparently, I had somehow contracted the E. coli virus that became a bladder. That became a bladder infection that became sepsis, and tried to knock me down. But with a great medical staff, even with a temperature of 104 point something, which I've never had in my life, and the right antibiotics for almost a 14-day period, I am fit as a fiddle and right as rain. So, dead man walking.
Wow, I'm glad
Yeah,
you turned things up, man. I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Black Swan's debut, Shake the World. It'll be released in a few
Excellent.
days. Yeah, and I've been seeing a great reaction to it, and I love the album. So thank you for it, first and foremost.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Friday, the 14th, which is also Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We will see the release of the full Black Swan album, Shake the World, featuring Reb Beach, Jeff Pilson, Matt Starr, and myself. Probably, Rodrigo, I have to say right out the gate, probably the best album I have ever made, the most fun album I've ever been on, and the best vocal sound I've ever had of anything I've ever done. So it's a fun time for me. I can't believe that I'm actually doing something like this at this stage in my life, but it's done. The reaction is overwhelming. We were not expecting this by any stretch of the imagination. All of the requests for interviews started coming in, and I'm looking at the schedule and I'm going, really?
Yeah.
Are you serious? And it's been overwhelming. If come Friday, when we release the full album, if we get anything close to the response that we've been having to date, it will be even more overwhelming, and will definitely be a great incentive to take the band live as soon as we can.
Yeah,
because
that's,
as you know, As soon as you can, we have crazy schedules.
Yeah.
All of us with touring and everything. But nothing's impossible. That's what I'm very positive when it comes to stuff like that. So we'll have to make it work one way or the other.
Yeah, that's the hope. And for me,
Yes.
it was certainly great to see you reconnect with your former MSG buddy, Jeff Pilson. But how did each of the members get involved in the band?
Well, Frontiers came to me some time ago, and Serafino himself called me and he said, "Oh, I would love to work with you because you're probably the only musician that we haven't worked with." And I said, "Well, I'm not taking it personally." And, the things weren't in the right place. I work a Vegas show 5 nights a week, the Raiding the Rock Vault, going into our 7th year with almost 1,500 shows under our belt.
Wow.
And then I tour with McAuley Schenker Fest, and all of that was going on. I'm in Vegas right now because I have a show tonight. It will be the last show of the week's run, because we work Saturday through Wednesday. And so we kind of put it on the back burner, and then, I don't know, maybe a year ago, Jeff called me, and he said, "Serafino's been talking to me from Frontiers and asked me to put like a group together for another project." And because he does a lot of work for Frontiers on a production level,
Right.
He said, so what I did was I called Reb Beach because I worked with Reb during a Dokken record. And I wanted to call you because we have a great history together and we haven't done any work for some time. And I think now is the time. How do you feel about it? And I said, "Oh man, I would love to work with you and Reb." And I said, "But you have to be playing bass." And he goes, "No, I don't want to play bass on this. I want to be more on the production side of things, just on the outside looking in." And I went, "Nah, I don't want that to happen. You have to play bass." He had a whole bunch of bass players that he had lined up, and the same with drummers. He had drummers that he had down on the list. And when we started writing, of course, and he's heavily involved with the writing, he'd be laying down bass tracks to get the songs moving along the writing process. And of course, at that time, he put a drum machine, a great drum machine, just to get a feel on the stuff. So the longer it went on, because of our schedules and trying to get together in the studio, and when are you free, and when can you come to my studio, all of that sort of stuff, those bass players and drummers were no longer available. And so we carried through the entire album writing and came to the end and needed a drummer. And I said, I worked with Matt Starr at the Vegas show, and I've done some events with him in Hollywood. So let me shoot him a text. Matt goes, "Totally in. Let me hear the stuff." So Jeff sent it to him. He was blown away, and he came into the studio, and he really brought the thunder. What he has done on the record is fantastic. It's amazing.
It is, yeah. So, massive drumming.
Yeah. It's thunderous. It's just great. So the writing process was it was great. It's not Whitesnake, it's not Dokken, it's not Winger, it's not MSG. It's very much Black Swan, I believe.
Yeah. I believe you guys came up with your own identity in a short period of time, for sure.
Yes, one of the funny things was one of the first ideas that music ideas that Jeff and Reb sent to me just to see where we would feel it out among each other, I came back to the studio and I said, "Hey, I know Reb's in town. He's going to be at the studio. I'm gonna come by and say hello, and I'll let you hear what I have for this very first idea." So I came in and we didn't record it properly. I was singing in the control room, so they just got a rough idea of it. So I start singing and I hit the chorus, which is Big Disaster, and Reb starts laughing and he goes, "Oh man, what a way to start. This is our first chance writing together, and you come up with a song called Big Disaster." And I went, "Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that, And he said, "Probably not a good title for an album." And I went, "Nah, this is the first song, Ironically, at the end of all of this story, Big Disaster gets released as the second single the very same day that I'm being released from hospital. Right?
Oh,
And
wow.
people are calling me going, dude, is this some kind of a publicity stunt? And I'm going, no. It's just purely coincidental. So,
Oh, wow.
you know, everything happens for a reason. It's a great track. Reb is absolutely smoking on it. He's just like, as Jeff Pilson describes his playing, it's really nasty on this album. And he really comes into his own because he's such an amazing guitar player, and he has such a depth of melody. It's just, he kills it.
Yes.
He just kills it.
Yeah.
And Jeff is such a great person to work with. He's a great songwriter, great producer. So, yeah, we came out with a very fresh, powerful, pretty organic sounding album that we're just really happy with.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's unique about this band is that, well, Frontiers has been putting together a lot of bands recently, and in some cases the band members hardly know each other or they haven't even met. On this particular case, you guys seem to have a lot of fun working together. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, it feels like a band. It's you know, a lot of people are going, "Oh, dude, how is it working with a supergroup?" And I'm going, "Oh, please don't start with a supergroup. It's not a supergroup. It's a bunch of guys who just are fortunate enough to have the same interest in music. We know each other. At least Jeff and I did, and I know Matt. And I'd met Reb during his Night Ranger days when I was singing with Survivor. So I didn't really know Reb other than, of course, the depth of his work. But having spent a short time together, you would think we'd known each other for as long as I've known Jeff, you know?
Wow.
And we came in and we cut those videos for Shake the World and Big Disaster, and we had an absolute blast, like we've been playing together for a long time. So I can't wait for the opportunity to see this go to the live stage. I think it would be it'll knock people over, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the mix on the album too. It's great to see some room for bass and drums to shine as well. It's not something you hear every day, right, in the current musical output.
And that's what I mean about organic, how powerful and organic it sounds. It's very open and very real. It's like we're standing in the room with you. It's awesome.
Yeah, and when it comes to the lyrics of the album, were you responsible for all of them? I mean, are you fine with singing lyrics you wrote and lyrics written by others, or what's your preference?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Jeff is responsible for United Divided, which is an absolute monster of a song. The Rock That Rolled Away, he had the chorus, and most of the rest of it, The Long Road to Nowhere, he had a chorus because he had a friend that he was writing about, and he shot it over to me, and I wrote the lyrics to all the verses. And most of the songs I wrote most of the lyrics to, I'd go into the studio and sing it down to Jeff, and he'd go, just change that word there, that word sounds better here. And we'd collaborate that way. But for the most part, with the exception of a few songs, I wrote most of the lyrics and most of the melodies, and we would collaborate and change things for the better of the song. And that was always important. It's not about me, and I wrote this, and it has to be me. It wasn't about that. It was about how does the song work best. I think that shows. I think that really shows.
Yeah. And I'm curious about the title, Johnny Came Marching. I think it's a different take on the war, seen from the point of view of a soldier who's coming back from the combat lines, right? Can you expand a little bit on that one?
Yes, I can. Actually, it was very close to me because I was in Europe. I was actually in Poland with Schenker Fest, and I saw the headlines about the Borderline Grill Massacre in California. That happens to be about 25 minutes from my front door.
Oh, wow.
And one of my son Casey, the college is very close to where this grill is, and he'd been there the week before with a bunch of his buddies, and they do this line dancing thing for fun. And he was on his way to the Borderline Grill on that very same night, and he has a part-time job, being a college student. And he got called into work, thankfully, and he didn't make it there on the night. But it inspired me to, when Jeff and Reb sent me the music, they had ideas for a very different kind of song. But this idea was stuck in my head, and I just had to write it down. So I came to Jeff and I said, I'd like to really structure this song about a young soldier coming home, not properly counseled, acclimated back into society, and what happens is all too common. And I said I would like some really marching drums on the beginning of it, and it's a little disturbing because obviously the massacre itself was extremely disturbing.
Yeah.
And we see too much of it. And when I talk, my dad was a soldier, my uncles were soldiers, and when I talk about soldiers, I'm always thinking about older guys because soldiers are supposed to be more experienced. Our kids, our servicemen and women, are kids, young kids, 20, 21, 22, with a gun in their hand in a foreign country, and meeting all kinds of horrendous obstacles and seeing awful stuff that stays with them and affects them greatly. And of course, they come back home, and things are not as they were when they left, and that's kind of where the song is about. And of course, the whole end section, Jeff had the idea of putting in the TV and the radio news reports that really brings it home of what the song is about. And it's not at all, of course, to glorify the craziness that a person may be feeling and go crazy, or to take away from the horrendous effects that it has on those poor families who suffered such a great loss with their young kids. But it's more of an awareness thing, that this is the society we live in, and we have to do something. We have to do something.
For sure.
Anyway, there you have it. There you have it.
No, that I appreciate the thoughts, and very, very deep, meaningful song. I love that one. Yeah. But tell me about another favorite of mine, She's On To Us. I think that's the best chorus on the whole album. But if you can expand on that one. Yeah.
I will. That's actually a true story. It's a true story about a very good friend of mine who happens to be a private investigator.
Oh, wow.
And she had a stupid ass husband, right? And this is a gorgeous woman, let me just tell you. But sometimes it's not enough for some guys. So this particular idiot, right, thinks that he can have an indiscretion, and his private investigator wife's not going to find out about it. Well, wrong, my friend, right? So when the music came into me, Jeff again and Reb had an idea that it should go a particular direction. I'm listening to it and I'm going, I know where this is going to go right now. And so I came back to them with this chorus and this pre-chorus, and she's not crying anymore.
Yeah, that's the best part. Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's about a friend of mine who's a private investigator, and she busted the ass out of her husband for being an idiot.
Right.
And needless to say, he's not around anymore. Yeah, because she's not crying anymore.
No, she's not. Definitely not.
So, so there you have it. You asked, now you got the answer.
Yeah, I'm torn. I don't know which one has the most MSG vibe on this album. I'm torn between She's On To Us or Long Road to Nowhere. Yeah.
Actually, that was Jeff's chorus. Jeff came to me and he said, I have a friend who has a terrible drug problem, and I've got this chorus, but I don't have a verse. And this is kind of what it's about. And so I went home with it, and I listened to it, and I came in the next day, and I went, here you go. What do you think? And he goes, oh, my God, that's just like perfect. I don't actually hear MSG in there at all. I mean, that said, somebody said to me earlier, it would be impossible if, because of Reb's past with Winger and Whitesnake and Dokken and Foreigner and MSG and what have you, that there wouldn't be a hint of one of those bands
Of course.
somewhere in a chord structure or somewhere in a melody, because, subliminally, we do have a tendency to steal from ourselves sometimes.
Yes.
And it's not intentional, and it's just a style that you write in. So it's inconceivable to think that you wouldn't repeat yourself at some point.
Yeah. It's your mark.
After a few beers, I repeat myself all the time.
I understand.
So maybe I wasn't honestly conscious. Nobody else brought that up. So interesting point that you should hear that.
Yeah. You mentioned Divided United, which is a Jeff song. That has a strong Queen vibe to me, right? Can you tell us about that one?
Yes, well, it's better if Jeff explains it, but I had been to see Bohemian Rhapsody. I mentioned it to Jeff. We were recording one of the songs, and he said that he was planning to go see it the same night. And I think around midnight or something, my phone is hopping off the shelf, and sure enough, there's Pilson sending me an MP3 file, and he came straight back from the movie, was deeply inspired by what he had seen, and sat at his grand piano and started to knock out that song, and sent me what he had, melody and lyric wise, and he also sang it, and I went, oh my God, this is amazing, And he said, yeah, but you need to come in and sing it. You need to put your thing on it. You need to, put Robin McAuley on this track. And I said, I'd be totally cool if you sing it. He goes, no, I don't want to sing it. You're singing it. So we got to it, and I changed a couple of things that were more suited to how I phrase things. Stuck a little extra line here and there, but basically a song that Jeff wrote. And then he always wanted to have that beginning and then that ending, almost like a tie your mother down kind of a thing, from how they go crazy with Queen on that. And he wanted a big, powerful riff. And Reb came up with that riff. And the melody was a little bit different. And I went, let's try this. So I just started to sing like I did on it. And it worked out great. It's a very powerful song, very powerful lyric, and very topical for where we're at right now.
Yes, indeed. And I'm glad you watched the Queen movie, not the Motley Crue one, but you don't have to comment if you don't want to.
Oh, dude. I won't. I mean, by the sheer fact that I won't comment on it should be enough.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Let's move on. I have a question about your vocal performance, because to me it's uncanny how you kept your voice so powerful through the years. What is your secret for that?
Oh, Lord, I don't know if it's a secret. It's my instrument. It's the only instrument I have. I wanted to be a great drummer. I was pretty lousy at that. I've never regarded myself as a singer, vocalist, whatever you want to call it, purely because I really wanted to be a great drummer. I got kind of thrown into that, and people said, "Oh, dude, you have a very unique voice. You should work on that." And I did. I worked on it very hard. I spend a lot of time. My wife always tells me that I can lose my voice by just saying it. If I think it, I lose it. I could lose it in a second. So that's kind of how fickle I am. I take great care of it. When I'm not working, I'm very unsociable. I hardly ever speak to anybody, because I'm always thinking the show is number one. The show is what matters the most. When I walk out there, I have to be 100% ready to go, ready to do it, no excuses. And because I travel a lot and I tour a lot, that's a very difficult part of it. So you have to be extremely careful that you wrap up. You don't make yourself prone to catching colds, flus, all that. It's a nightmare as a singer. We singers always say, it must be so much easier for the drummer or the guitar player, because they can have a hangover, they can have a cold or a flu, but they can still walk out there and do it. The singer, everybody's going to point the finger at the singer and go, "Dude, we have to cancel because of you." Right?
Yes.
And so the singer gets it in the neck, and the singer also gets told that he's a total prima donna because, it's the poor me syndrome. Well, you do need the singer to sing the show if you really like your singer. So there's a big responsibility from that level, but there's a big responsibility that should be taken by the singer to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I take as much care as I can to always try to be on my game. And it's not easy, but I worked very, very hard at it. I'm very fortunate. I still have a lot of power in my voice. I still have a good range, and I know what I'm capable of doing. And so I don't ever go any further than I know I'm capable of doing. So I stay with it. I will stay within that, and that works for me.
I see. And I understand you quit the music business for more than a decade and studied computer design. Tell me about that choice and what prompted your return.
Oh, that was easy. I have twin boys. They'll be 21 on Friday, I think I just said. One of my boys, Casey, actually sings backups on about 4 of the songs on the record.
Oh, nice.
He's got a killer voice, and he's a great guitar player. And he wanted to come to the studio, and when we had him there, Jeff stuck him on a couple of tracks, and he sings so high, he said he chases the dogs out of the neighborhood. So there was a great opportunity for him and me to just work together. But the question, I was in Japan. My boys were born on Valentine's Day, and I had to go to Japan on tour. And my son, Jamie, who's 1 minute older, I missed his first steps. I wasn't home. And it broke my heart. And I'm a real homebody. I love my kids, and I love my family. So I was really bummed out. And I said, I'm not going to let this happen again. And at the time, it was like, I think 92. So 80s rock, what we were doing, there wasn't it was kind of alternative music, and grunge was the big thing. And so it's not like there was a huge amount of work for 80s style music anymore. So when I came back from Japan, I made a very conscious decision that I needed to do something else to stay off the road. I needed a paycheck, right? I needed to work. And if music wasn't going to be my avenue for making some money to take care of my family, I needed to do something else. I had no idea about computers or computer graphics, to say the least. And in the beginning, when I stayed home, my son Casey took his first steps. So at least I saw that. And I had some friends in the graphic design business. And I went to college, and I took graphic design courses. And I did as much learning as I could. And I was very fortunate to get an opportunity as a production artist in a manufacturing company.
Oh, okay.
And I started doing layouts for, shampoos and conditioners and facial creams, and I could probably walk into a Target or something right now and show you something that I actually did.
Oh, wow.
Because they keep repeating themselves. And it was a huge company, and I became a senior production artist for about 16 years.
Wow.
Right? And I had a great paycheck. I had a retirement plan, a 401k. I had health insurance, and I was able to take care of my family. And in the midst of all that, I bought a house, 2 houses actually.
Oh, wow.
And that was totally outside of the music industry. And I'd have some of my friends come and go, dude, how did you do that? I'm so stupid. I should have done that. And I'm going, well, it's never too late, because my poor wife was freaking out, and she works harder than anybody. She does 14, 16 hours a day, and she works with eating disorder kids.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So she works a very, very strenuous, difficult, stressful job. And she said, you're going to go crazy, because this is what you do, and you're going to drive me crazy being around the house all day because you're not singing. And we put family first, And when the time was right, when the boys were about 4 or 5, my phone started ringing off the hook, and I went from graphic design into joining Survivor. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's another call coming in from me now too. So.
Right, so we should wrap up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just going back to Black Swan. The album is set for release on February 14th. When
Yes.
can we expect a tour to be announced? Anytime?
Oh, I think I tell everybody this same thing. Excuse me. I think we have to wait and see what the reaction on the release date and a little bit after that is going to be. If it's as positive as it has been to date, I think it'll set the tone for us having to look at it very seriously in terms of, I mean, right now we're looking at our schedules going, okay, maybe then, maybe that, you know, and we may have to take a more serious, concentrated look at it if the reaction is very positive. And of course, you know, promoters, et cetera, are going to feel that they want to have Black Swan on their bill.
I see.
And there's a lot of factors that come into play. Hopefully, all of those will be positive, and we can get to it ASAP. That would be my wish. I think I speak for the rest of the guys. They would like to do that too. So, yeah, fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for sure. Robin, thank you so much for your time, and all the best with McAuley Schenker Fest, Black Swan, and all your future endeavors.
Thank you, Rodrigo, and I'll see you on the road.
See you,
man. On the road sometime.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Folks, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Robin McAuley. Stay tuned for more news from Sonic Perspectives, and please follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to leave you now with the title track of the Black Swan album, Shake the World. Take care and rock on.